Good morning. Today's project is showing you how I'm going to revamp my bed skirt. I've had this bed skirt for a really long time, and as you can see, it's not, when it hangs, it's not very full. So I want to add something that's really full and, you know, a little substantial. This is just a cheaper one. Oh, I think I bought it at like Target or Walmart years ago. So anyways, I'm working with a king size bed. So I have, you can see this is just the part that lays underneath the mattress, and then this is the part that hangs down from the side of the bed. So I'm going to use this as a base to add more fabric on top of it that's nicely gathered and give me that nice fullness that I want. So the first thing we're going to do is I picked up some. Okay, the first thing you're going to do when you get your fabric is you're going to wash it, press it, and get it ready for sewing. I've already gone ahead and done that. Then the next thing you're going to want to do is figure out how big of a piece you're going to want to cut for this project. So you're going to need to measure from the top of your box spring to the floor. So from the top of the box spring to the floor for my bed is 15 inches. So I'm going to have 15 inches in length on my fabric, 15 inches, plus I'm going to add another inch for a seam allowance at the top where I want to do my gathering. Now when I picked out this fabric, I picked out a fabric that has a nice edge to it so that hemming the fabric for the bottom edge where it hits the floor is not necessary. I'm just going to skip over that part because I already have a nice clean edge. So I don't need to add any extra fabric for that. So all I really need is the length of the fabric that I need to cut, which is 15 inches, and then an extra inch for gathering it and attaching it to the existing bed skirt that I have. Okay, once you figure out how your length of your fabric, you're going to cut it to size. I've already done that, and I have, let's see, you can see I've got it all rolled up here. I have cut it to 16 inches wide by, this whole piece right here is about 6 yards. So what I did is I laid it all out, cut my fabric to 16 inches, the whole length of the 6 yards. I don't know how much I'm going to use because I don't know, I've never done this before, so I'm just kind of winging it. But now I have my fabric ready to start gathering. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine, and we're going to gather this edge, the raw edge that we cut. The edge on the other side is a nice seam that came with the fabric. So we're not going to touch that edge. We're going to work on the raw edge over here that we cut. I'm going to run a basting stitch, a really big, on my sewing machine, that means a length of 4 all the way down this side of the fabric. I'm not going to go all, I'm going to work in sections of probably like 3 feet at a time, because I don't think pulling a thread through for gathering 6 yards of fabric is going to be fun. So I'm going to work in little sections. Anyways, I'll show you what First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to the sewing machine, run a basting stitch down the raw edge for about 3 feet, and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, now I now have my fabric in my sewing machine, and I use the raw edge. I put the pressure foot right along the raw edge, and basically all I'm going to do is just sew a basting stitch along this edge for about 3 feet. Okay, so then I'll stop right there. I will not backspace, or I won't, then I'm just going to lift up my needle and pull it out a little bit and make sure I have a good enough tail here. And then I'll snip off. Oh, I don't know why it's doing that. I'll snip off the ends. Then what I'm going to do with this section right here is I'm just going to tie this into a knot so that when I'm pulling the other end to ruffle it, it's not going to come out this end. Then what I'll do is I'll stick it back in real close to where I left off and do the next section of 3 feet. I don't know. I'm just assuming this will work. We'll see what happens. Alright, I'll show you how to ruffle in just a minute. Okay, so I have my first section base with the running stitch or basting stitch, and then I come to the end and I cut a little piece here off. I'm going to tie this into a knot just so that when I am ruffling starting from the other end, these threads don't pull out. So I'll give it like 3 little knots here, like that. Okay, so then I'll take it back to the sewing machine and continue basting all the way down here. But for right now, let me show you how to ruffle the fabric. You're going to have 2 threads at the very beginning of your sewing. One on the top, one on the bottom. You want to take this top piece, I like to wrap my finger around it, and you give it a little tug, and you can see where it ruffles it up. Then what you're going to do is pinch this beginning and run the ruffle down the seam. Run the fabric down the seam, and that will move the ruffle down your length of your thread. And you just keep doing that until you get the desired ruffles that you want. You're going to run it all the way down to that knot that we tied. So I'll work on this, turning into a nice ruffle. Like that. So here's the ending knot, and I'm just going to keep pulling it down until I hit that knot. Until I get a nice amount of ruffle. Like my goal for this is to be really ruffly. So I want to make it real tight in the ruffles. And hopefully that will work. So now I need to start at the beginning again and move down to the end. Pull at the beginning and move it down to the end. Until I have about what I want. So you can see how ruffly it is. Hopefully, it doesn't look very good right now, but hopefully once it's sewn on, the ruffles that I'm looking for will be there. So what all I'm going to do is all the way to the end. So this is my very beginning. You can see how it's all ruffled. Then what I'm going to do is tie another knot so that it stays here until I'm ready to sew onto the bedskirt. And one more knot. There we go. Alright, so I've got my first little section right now, ruffled up. You can see it better like this. Here we go. So all ruffly. And then it hangs down. See the bottom? So yeah. Okay, so then so that's the first little ruffle. So basically I'm gonna do that the whole length of my fabric until I have the whole thing completely gathered. Then I'm gonna pin it onto my base. So I'll go ahead and start working on this, and I'll show you when it comes time to pin it back all together. Alright, so I'm done with all of my ruffling. You can see here I've got the piece all ruffled. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my previous dust ruffle, and I'm just going to lay it over the top of it. Here's the old stitching. I'm going to just kind of lay it about 1/4 inch to the top, right next to it. Actually, you know what? I think I'm just going to go, yeah, I'm just going to go right over the top. So all I'm going to do is pin it slightly to get started, and then I am going to go ahead and sew. Somehow my pins are gone. I have no idea where they are. Alright, so I guess I won't pin it. But anyways, I'm just going to take a sewing machine and sew it all the way along, all the way around, and we'll see what we end up with. Okay, we're at the home stretch. Okay, we're at the home stretch. Here is the ruffle that I sewed onto the base, and now I'm dealing with this raw edge. I'm simply running a zigzag stitch along the length of that raw edge to clean it up and make it look like this, which gives it a little more finished look. Here's my original stitching line where I added the new ruffle, and there's the zigzag stitch. And basically I'm doing this just because I don't like to have any raw edges in my sewing projects. Plus, when I put it in the washing machine, that I know it won't fray. So I don't know. No raw edges, that's my thing. Alright, so anyways, I also wanted to show you along the edge over here of the ruffle itself. At the very end, I have a raw edge also. So a quick little zigzag stitch down that. Finish that up. And then underneath, here is the original ruffle. And I left that on there to hopefully just add a little extra bulk to my project. So anyways, I will finish up this sewing, and then I will show you what it looks like on the bed. Alright, so I have finished my dust ruffle for my bedroom bed, and it looks like it turned out pretty good. I like the way it looks nice and full, I think, and I'll show you a close-up here. It turned out nice. Just barely skimming the floor, which is perfect. So yeah, that turned out nice, I think. Now, I did and will mention that I used two lengths, 16 inches wide by 6 yards for this king-size bed. In the future, if I ever do it again, I will definitely want to add another couple of yards because although it's full, it's not quite as full as I would have liked. I had to kind of stretch it towards the end. So yeah, but all in all, it turned out good, and I like it. Hope you enjoyed this project, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.